6 days before the cameras rolled on It's Pimpin', Katt Williams was in a hotel room with the ending of the special, in a state that it had been in for months. Finished. Not finished in the provisional sense that live performance material is always somewhat open to revision. Finished in the sense that it had been performed dozens of times on the road, refined through the repetition that the circuit provides, shaped by the specific feedback of many live rooms into something that worked with the consistency and the reliability that a closing section of a stand-up special needs to have before the taping date arrives. The ending was there. The special was built toward it. The road had confirmed it. And then something else arrived. Not a better version of the same instinct, a different instinct. A direction for the closing section that was not the direction the road work had built toward, that had not been tested in any room, that existed only in the specific form of a new idea in a hotel room 6 days before the only night the cameras would be running. Here is the thing about that moment that makes it different from the ordinary revision process that comedy material goes through in the course of being developed. The revision process works because repetition provides information. A bit is performed, the room gives back its response. The comedian uses the response to revise, the revised version is performed, and the process repeats. The information is live and immediate and accurate. What arrived in the hotel room 6 days before the taping was something that had no information to support it. No rooms had confirmed it. No audiences had responded to it. No road feedback had shaped it. It was simply an instinct. A new direction that presented itself as the right direction with no evidence to support the claim except the quality of the instinct itself. The question that confronted Katt Williams in that hotel room, and that he resolved alone, without the road's feedback and without the time to generate it, is the question that every serious creative person eventually faces in the final days before something is made permanent. Do you trust the proven thing or the new one? The thing that has been confirmed by repetition and audience response, or the thing that has never been in a room and is asking to be in the room when the cameras are running for the only time? He chose the new thing. And what happened in the 6 days between that choice and the taping is the part of the story that explains why the ending of It's Pimpin' is what it is. The new ending required something that the original ending had not required. A different kind of vulnerability. The original closing section had been built within the register that the rest of the special had established, extending the special's established voice and perspective to their natural conclusion, delivering the payoff that the preceding hour had been building toward in the specific key that the preceding hour had set. It was, in the technical sense, the right ending for the special that the road had built. The new ending asked the special to change its key in the final section, to arrive somewhere different from where the structure of the preceding hour had been pointing, not contradicting the preceding hour, but extending it further than the original ending had extended it, further into the territory that the special had been circling without fully entering, closer to the thing that the material had been approaching throughout the evening without arriving at it directly. The vulnerability of the new ending was the vulnerability of proximity, of allowing the closing section to be closer to the thing the material had always been about than the original ending had allowed it to be, which is the specific kind of vulnerability that is hardest to maintain in front of a live audience, because it is the kind that cannot be performed. It has to be inhabited, or it is nothing. The 6 days between the hotel room decision and the taping were spent building the new ending in the only space available, in the mind, alone, without audience response, without the live room's confirmation that the proximity was working rather than merely present. The comedian who walked into the taping venue on the night the cameras ran was carrying a closing section that had never been in a room. What happened on the taping night is what the audience received and what the distribution made permanent. The cameras ran. The set proceeded through the sections that the road had confirmed. The new closing section arrived at the end of an evening that the preceding hour had fully established, and the room received it. Not in the managed way that a room receives an ending it has been prepared for, in the specific way that a room receives something it has not been prepared for, and that turns out to be exactly what the evening was building toward. The surprise of an ending that arrives from the direction the material had always been pointing without the audience having been able to see the pointing. Here is the third thing about that taping night. The thing that the audience who was in the room has talked about most consistently in the years since. It's pimpin'. Pimpin' was built over the road period that preceded its taping, the months of touring and refining that stand-up specials require before they are ready to be recorded in the form that distribution will make permanent. The material had been tested in many rooms of many sizes, and what the road had confirmed about the special as a whole was the strength of its architecture. The specific way the sections built on each other, the rhythm of the accumulation, the forward pressure that the set's structure created as it moved through the evening toward the closing section. The road had also confirmed the closing section itself, the ending that the special had been performing toward, which had been shaped by audience responses across many different rooms into something that landed with the consistency that a closing section needs. Not every night produced the same quality of response, but the response across many nights had been strong enough and consistent enough to establish the ending as the right ending. The road had given it that designation. The designation had stuck. What the hotel room instinct offered was a different ending, one that would require the closing section to arrive at a different place from the place the road had confirmed. Not a small adjustment within the existing structure, a different destination. The kind of change that 6 days before the taping requires the comedian to perform the new version in the only room available to them, the room of their own mind, without an audience, without the live feedback that would confirm or deny what the instinct was claiming. This is the hardest version of the creative decision. When the information is available, when the road is running and the rooms are giving back their responses, the decision about what to keep and what to revise is made with evidence. The road is the laboratory, and the evidence accumulates across performances. 6 days before the taping, the laboratory is closed. The evidence that would confirm the new instinct does not exist and cannot be generated in the time remaining. The decision has to be made on the quality of the instinct alone. Katt Williams made it on the quality of the instinct alone. And then he had to do something that the road cannot do for a comedian 6 days before a taping. He had to rebuild the closing section around the new destination, without testing it, without confirmation, in the time that remained before the cameras would run for the only time. Here is the second thing about that decision that changes how the taping itself should be understood, and it has to do with what the new ending required that the original ending did not. What the audience in the room on the taping night has talked about most consistently is the quality of the response to the new ending, the specific way that the closing section landed in a room that had spent the preceding hour being built towards something and that received, in the closing minutes, a destination it had not fully anticipated. Comedy audiences carry expectations into specials in the specific form produced by the comedian's established voice. They arrive knowing, broadly, the register of what they are going to receive, and the set confirms or extends or complicates those expectations as it proceeds. The opening establishes the specific version of the voice operating that night. The middle sections develop the material within that voice. The closing delivers the payoff that the preceding hour has been building toward. What the new ending did to the taping audience was move the payoff to a different location from the location the audience's expectations had established. Not closer to the comedian's voice as the audience knew it, closer to the material's subject, the actual subject, the thing underneath the jokes, the thing that the jokes were the surface of. The audience received an ending that arrived at the material's actual center rather than at the ending of a performance about the material. The difference is subtle on first contact. The audience does not necessarily know, in the moment of receiving it, that the ending arrived from a different direction than the previous ending would have. They simply know that the ending was right, that the evening concluded somewhere it needed to conclude, that the closing minutes gave them something the preceding hour had been earning without their being aware that the earning was happening. It's Pimpin' Pimpin' is remembered as one of the strongest specials of Katt Williams's career, the most cited, the most quoted, the one that new audiences return to most often when they are beginning to understand what his comedy actually does. What is not remembered is the hotel room 6 days before the taping, the instinct that arrived without confirmation, the decision to replace the proven ending with the new one, the 6 days of building the new version alone, without the road's feedback, carrying it into the taping venue and trusting it in front of cameras that were running for the only time. The audience received the ending the hotel room produced. They called it the right ending because it was the right ending. But the right ending had not been confirmed by any room before the room that received it for the first time received it permanently, on camera, with no opportunity for revision if the instinct turned out to be wrong. That is the specific courage of the creative decision made alone in a hotel room 6 days before the cameras rolled. Not the courage of a performer who has tested something and found it proven and now delivers the proven version. The courage of a performer who has trusted an instinct over the evidence and then walked into the room where the instinct would be confirmed or would not be, and performed it as if it were already confirmed. The audience never knew. The cameras never captured the hotel room. What they captured was the ending that the hotel room produced, the ending that the audience received as the right ending, because the instinct that produced it had been right. That is the part of It's Pimpin' Pimpin' that lives in the special, but did not come from the stage.